there are some interesting parallels to be drawn here, because the attack on Charlie Hebdo was by no means the first assault on people in Europe for voicing their views on Islam. It was the largest and worst attack to date of people for blasphemy in modern Europe. There had been previous things which I thought didn't wake people up enough. A couple of years before that, there's a right-wing Danish historian called Lars Hedegaard who was visited by an assassin at his door one morning in Copenhagen, and 2 shots fired at his head. Fortunately, the second one jammed. It didn't make very much news, and people weren't worried about it enough. And one of the views I had about that at the time was there was a kind of, rather like with Pim Fortuyn, there was a kind of, well, if you're a right-winger and you're saying that stuff, you're probably a fascist, you're probably a racist, so basically you're kind of a bullet magnet. With the Charlie Hebdo stuff, it was a bit different. And it was partly, I think, because, I mean, there was a massive effort from Muslim communities and others to say, you know, I mean, my God, people did their mugging up. You know, swift Googling. Bastards. They just decided to go out on the airwaves and just smear these people who'd been murdered a few hours beforehand. It's contemptible. You know, they're racist, provocateurs, all this kind of thing. The number of times I spent so much of that week arguing with people on the airwaves saying, you know, you just have no idea what you're talking about. This is a very far left-wing, anti-racist magazine, and you're not going to smear these guys too. I don't think they did entirely get away with that, but it is an interesting thought experiment, by the way. If that had have been a conservative magazine, would it have had the amount of solidarity? I'd like to think so. I'd like to think so. But there has been so much bifurcation of the political language in recent years that I can't help thinking that it would be even harder. But Charlie Hebdo should have been a clear line in the sand. I think for a lot of people it was. I think for a lot of people still it was. But the pollution that some of those critics got away with inserting into the debate, you still hear it when they were going to be honored by Penn in America. The number of American sort of liberal figures who said, I don't want to be associated with this, it's, you know, it's insulting and so on. I mean, seriously, screw them. I mean, people who write these boring, irrelevant novels about what it's like living in their bit of Manhattan and their relationship with their ex-boyfriend. I mean, seriously, these people think they're on the cusp of their era and really at the center of every artistic discussion of their time. They are a million miles away from it. They are a million miles away from it, and they have the audacity to identify some of the very few people in the whole world right at the heart of that, and they go for them. There isn't enough contempt in the world for these people. But you hear that, it erupts quite often. People who didn't do their homework, don't know much about it, but immediately fall still onto the default side. That still goes on. But yes, it should have been a wake-up call. But then, how many wake-up calls should there have been by now? I mean, we are in societies that keep on sleeping through the alarm clock.